Well, I want to turn next and talk about an issue that you've probably been seeing a lot about on social media. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, he's up for re-election, by the way, and it's like a month or two. It's coming right up. And these pictures from his much earlier life have come forward. There have been pictures online now just sent everywhere where he dressed up, and they're actually using the term brown face as well as blackface. I mean, he dressed in, for a variety of reasons, at public events where he made his face all black, even made the back of his hands black, did the same thing, brown face. So he is, joined the ranks of people who've been called out for their conduct in their younger days. I think he was 21 years old or so at the time of these pictures were taken, or in that ballpark. But he's been called out for racial insensitivity, and people even use the term racism because dressing in brown face, blackface. I just wanted to say this about that. It's not the worst problem Justin Trudeau presents to rational people. It should not be the worst problem that Justin Trudeau presents to rational people. We become so driven by the racial agenda, the racist agenda, that you have people just all over social media and emailing and demanding petitions or signing petitions and demanding he step down because of some pictures taken when he was younger. I'm not defending the guy. I don't like anything he stands for, but bad pictures or insensitive pictures are not his worst problems. Let me tell you what some of his real problems are. Number one, I don't know if you realize, but Justin Trudeau is in the middle of a very, very serious ethical scandal. Serious ethical scandal. He was the Canadian Office of Ethics, completed their investigation of him, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, whether he inappropriately used his office, used his power to influence and pressure the Canadian Attorney General to drop criminal charges against a political ally and donor called SNC Lavalin, Lavalin. So he is in the middle of serious corruption charges. The Canadian Office of Ethics basically said, they looked into it and said, he used his power to stop the prosecution by the Canadian Attorney General of a political ally and donor. So flat out caught at it. No one's arguing he didn't do it. He issued some mealy-mouth apology. But even maybe almost worse than that is once he was caught at this, and, it's out there, everybody knows this is a true corruption scandal with him, as do many people on the American left. They are vicious. They are totalitarian in their mindset. He wanted his party to stand behind him, even though the Canadian Office of Ethics just said, yes, serious ethical problem here. But, he's decided, I want to be prime minister, and I'm going to insist that my party fall in line and ranks behind me. So two women, members of his party, were exiled, kicked out of the caucus of his party because they wouldn't just stand there mute and agree that even though he has a serious ethical dilemma on his hands, he wanted them to say, never mind, we love the guy, swell guy, let's ignore it. And these two women wouldn't do it. These two women are Wilson Rebold, the last name Wilson-Rebold, and another person named Philpott. He literally exiled them from their party, called them out as traitors, didn't use that word traitors, but called them out for not standing with him. This is a guy who's ethically challenged. It's my first problem with him. Number two, if every liberal stupid policy in this country, in America, were to be carried out by some counterpart, it would be Justin Trudeau. He loved the Iranian deal, didn't care that the Iranian deal actually enabled the Iranians to develop nuclear weapons, exactly the opposite of what they were supposed to do, that the deal was supposed to accomplish. He lambasted America for dropping out of the climate deal because he loves climate control. Huge left-wing, big government control guy, loved the climate deal, Paris Climate Accord. So he criticized America for that. And he's also, under his watch, developed a huge, or as Trump would say, huge problem with respect to refugees in his country. In Canada, Canada has now exceeded America in terms of Somali and Islamic refugees brought into the country over the last few years. Canada has brought in more Somalian Islamic refugees into his country. And I fault him for the following things. Number one, when his own constituents are saying, his own people, here he's the prime minister of the whole country, saying, you know what, we've got a problem here. We have very aggressive conduct on the part of these Somalian refugees. We really wish you'd listen to us. Stop bringing so many refugees here. And he mocked, derided them. Of course, the Canadian media went right along with him. Oh, this is terrible. These people are so mean. How could they say this? And the people are saying, come look where we live. Look what's happening to our communities. You come look. Now, that is not of interest to him. But recently, there was actually something that was you talk about just evidence that the Islamic Sharia supremacist, Islamic caliphate mindset is alive and well within the Somalian Islamic community in Canada. In Canada, a political party just qualified to be recognized as a party and therefore to run candidates for offices of all kinds. That party is called the Islamic Party of Ontario. So now you've had so many Islamic refugees brought in that they have their own political party, at least in Ontario. And you might say, well, everybody has political parties, so they want to have representation too. Let me just tell you what's on their homepage, the Islamic Party of Ontario. The Quran, which I'm going to put a comma there. The Quran, which it contains over 100 verses mandating devout followers of Islam to engage in jihad to force submission into Islam. The idea of Islam is to force submission. They say force submission to Allah, and then in turn to force the world to submit to Islam. This is the source of much of the Islamic jihad in the world, are the very teachings of the Quran that say you must engage in jihad. You must engage in violence to force a conversion or the submission of infidels. So back to what this Islamic Party of Ontario says. Quran is the latest and final edition of divine books that provides complete guidance to all mankind in all walks of life that include politics and governance under the belief of supremacy of God. It goes on and on. I'm not going to keep reading it. But the point is, this party isn't saying we'd like adequate representation of the minority of people who are in Canada now, who are Islamic refugees from Somalia and other places. This is their launching position. The Quran is meant to rule all of mankind. Their words. The Quran is meant to rule all of mankind. The Quran is meant to govern. It is intended to to rule all walks of life, politics and governance. And so when Justin Trudeau responds to people who are concerned about, all these people coming here, and now they're bringing the Quranic doctrine, this whole concept of Islam, forcing submission of the world to Islam, is taking root, is taking place right in Canada, right under his nose, right in front of the people. And his answer is to mock people concerned about his refugee policies and how many, in fact, he had a little speech he did. I didn't highlight the word, I'm not going to take time looking for it, but he had a little speech he gave right after at some town hall. Someone said to him, we're a little concerned about what is happening to our communities. We bring a lot of new Somali Islamic refugees to our communities, and that it's kind of, it's really disrupting, upsetting things. He did this just high-minded, virtue signaling, left-wing, totally out of it, not just speech, but tweets and speech about how, we love diversity and the Islamic culture will be a blessing to, and I'm paraphrasing, Islamic culture will be a blessing to Canada and the rich diversity, all these words they throw out as the people are saying, hey, wait a minute, this is not going well here. We're worried already about our communities, and now we have a party that says it is committed to the supremacy of the Quran. And Justin Trudeau is just proudly bragging about and smiling about the idea that he is the one who's helping this happen. In fact, he did a big speech passionately defending refugees after this town hall question. And so if you're upset about Justin Trudeau, if you don't like his, pictures on media from 20 or more years ago with him doing brownface or blackface, I would say, yeah, okay, that's offensive, it's obnoxious, it's not very thoughtful. But those aren't the biggest problems with Justin Trudeau. He's a radical leftist. He is very dangerous to have in our hemisphere. He does not understand the threat of radical Islam in the Western Hemisphere. He does not understand what was happening in the Iranian deal. He does not understand that that was a partial capitulation to the Iranian mullahs. He does not understand that climate change is a massive effort to get control of the world, to bring international policy around, to redistribution of wealth. He doesn't understand a lot of things that he should understand if he really wants to be a good prime minister for Canada.